So I finally made the decision to double down on going all in on Webflow. And some of you that may have followed this channel in the past might hear that and roll your eyes because let's face it, I've been very wish-washy on this channel in terms of what am I actually trying to do? What am I actually trying to become here? At first I'm trying to go for a job, then I'm trying to go for freelance, then I'm going back to trying to get a job, then I do Webflow, then I do Framer, now I'm fucking back at Webflow. So like, obviously I understand that I'm being very wish-washy here, but I'm glad that you're seeing that because let's face it, this journey is not easy. Doing any sort of career transition is not a straightforward process as it is for as opposed to what some other people might make it seem that it is from other videos that you might see on YouTube. It's a very I'll be honest, just like it's emotionally and psychologically taxing to do this, and that's really the limiting factor when it comes to making this career transition, is just having the I don't know, psychological fortitude to just keep going with it. But the thing that really made me decide to double down on Webflow is I stopped asking myself, what should I do, right? In the video that I posted somewhat recently about being stuck in a rut, in that video, I said that I was sort of at a loss because I didn't know what I should do. And I started reflecting on that, and I sort of came to this realization that I'm fundamentally asking myself the wrong question. I shouldn't be asking myself, what should I do? Because when I do that, I am asking for advice from others. And again, as I outlined in that video, what works for someone else isn't necessarily going to work for me, or maybe it might work for me, but it may still not be the right path for me. And so I started shifting my mindset to more ask myself, what do I want to do? Like, out of all the things that I've done in my year and a half of trying to get into the UX industry, what has been the most joyful thing that I have done in that journey that I could see myself doing? And that really has been Webflow. When I first started learning Webflow on Webflow University, I really just enjoyed it. I mean, yes, I know it's technically more difficult to use, and you can build websites faster using something like Framer or whatever, but I really like the puzzle-like nature of Webflow. I don't know, I'm just really drawn to it for some reason, even though it's technically more difficult. And so I want to go over just like 3 reasons that I came up with for why I'm doubling down on Webflow. And it's not to say that you have to double down on Webflow, but I think you should ask yourself, what is it that you want to do within the UX industry? If you don't already know the answer to that question, shift it from what should I do to what do I want to do? But in any case, for Webflow, one of the main reasons that I like it is, or one of the big perks of Webflow, is that there is a big market for Webflow developers, which is great for myself who wants to learn it and eventually do freelance. There's a site called flowremote.io, I think it's called, and that is literally an entire job board just for Webflow developers. And so it's not to say that I'm going to land my first job within the next month on there. I mean, maybe I could, but I probably need to get a lot better first. But all that to say that there is clearly a market for Webflow developers, and that is not something that I'm sure there probably will be a market for Framer developers, designers at some point, but I just haven't really seen that yet. And obviously Webflow is a lot older than Framer, so I'm sure as time goes by that market will evolve for Framer. But as of now, there just appears to be a lot of opportunity for Webflow, and I don't really see it slowing down either, which is really the main thing. If I thought that it was going to be a dying trend, I might go with something else, but especially with the recent updates that Webflow went through, it just doesn't really seem like it's a dying tool. It seems like it's ever expanding and still very in demand. The second thing is that there's just a large community for Webflow. So they have a lot of support forums and communities that I can join so that if I get stuck on something, I can pretty much get help. And because I bought the Flux Academy Masterclass, that got me into their community so that I can ask them questions if I get stuck on Webflow. And just overall, there seems to be more support than if I were to learn something like Framer. And again, that really is just based on the fact that Framer is newer, so they don't have that large support system and community that Webflow has to offer. So that's really the second big perk of using Webflow. And then really the last thing is something that I just talked about in the beginning. I just have the most fun building with Webflow. Again, like, could I build something easier in Framer? Yes, absolutely. But it's hard to put in the words. I just like the puzzle-like nature of Webflow, of just trying to figure out how do things fit together in terms of figuring out what positioning do I need and figuring out the class system. I mean, some of it can be annoying, but it's also really rewarding too when I do figure out those wins on how to animate something properly or how to get something to just be positioned in a way that I want. It's just, I really find it enjoyable, and I'm going through the pretty much brand new Flux Academy Webflow Masterclass. They're on version 4.0 that just released like 2-3 weeks ago. And it's a blast to go through that course and just learn all the things that there is to learn when it comes to building out websites in Webflow. So I'm having a really fun time with that. I'm about halfway through that course. I'll probably post an update review on that when I get done with the course. But so far, I'm really enjoying that. So this is sort of my plan to double down on Webflow. And so I'm kind of like trying to come up with a game plan now, right? Because the last thing that I want is I don't want to be wishy-washy on this, right? I have made my decision, and so now I have to persevere through this, no matter the obstacles, right? Because I am no longer going to be this guy that says, oh, I'm going to go back to, searching for a job. Not that there's anything wrong with that. If you want to search for a UX job, and that's your goal, then obviously you should do that. But for me, I just don't want to do that. So I am now deciding to focus on this one thing, which is to get really fucking good at Webflow and to do freelance for this, using this as a tool. And so really my game plan is to really, for me, I imagine there's probably a lot of different ways to approach this, but the way that feels comfortable to me is to first gain a large degree of proficiency with using this tool, because I technically know how to use it, but I'll be honest, I would not feel super confident with designing a web page, at least not one that I could charge a large amount of money for. And so really my goals, I kind of came out with a rough, course of action for what I want to do with learning Webflow. And so the first thing is to really just complete this Webflow course that I'm working on and get the certificate for that. I know the certificate truthfully doesn't mean anything, but it means something to me just in the sense that I have completed this and I feel good now. So that's really just for me. It's not to be more marketable. But the other thing that I want to do is once I get that, once I finish the course, my goal then is to build 3 websites using Reloom. So why do I want to do that? Well, for one, Reloom is, in case you don't know, is one of the largest Webflow component libraries out there. And what's neat is they use a naming system called FinSuite Client First, which is a very popular naming system that a lot of web development design agencies use to have a consistent naming system for the classes in their project. So what's nice about Reloom is they have a lot of pre-built components that use that FinSuite client first naming structure. And so the thing about Reloom is they have this certification program where, and I don't know the exact details about this, I need to look into this more, but essentially you build 3 websites using Reloom, and obviously you style them to make them look professional and polished and all of that. And once I build 3 websites using Reloom, I don't know if it's a single web page or an entire website, I need to look more into that, but then I submit that to Reloom, and then if approved, I can become Reloom certified. And then that is something that actually does hold some merit, because I imagine that there are some companies out there that want people to use Reloom because it does have that FinSuite client first naming system already attached to it. So again, it just allows for a much more uniform naming system, as opposed to just trying to do this custom class naming system on your own. So that's my goal with that. And then from there, if I want to get Reloom certified, I have to have my portfolio site on this platform called Contra, I think it's called. I'm not super familiar with that. I probably should have prepared a little bit more for this video to talk more about that. But essentially, it's this portfolio site that I think you can also, it's designed for freelancers, and so you can actually charge people through that website as well. So I guess if I have that, I wouldn't need a Webflow portfolio. I guess I would just use Contra. I'm a little bit unsure about that, but I think I would just have my whole portfolio on Contra. And so once I build my Contra portfolio, it's really a matter of taking those 3 websites that I built using Reloom and then putting that on my portfolio. And then through that whole process, the goal is to implement a lot of the UX principles that I gained from my bootcamp and doing projects and things of that nature, because it's not like I want to build these websites without utilizing any of those skills. I still want to carry those with me. But I know that from what I've heard from other freelance designers, developers, that mostly on a portfolio, it's heavily visually influenced as opposed to writing out your entire design process. It's more like, show me the screens. What did you actually make? And so that's what I'm going to be focusing my Contra portfolio on. And so once I do that, then it's just a matter of getting paid clients. And so my goal is to get my first 3 paid clients to build Webflow websites for. And I imagine I'll probably utilize a similar process to what I posted about a few months ago on this channel about just kind of doing site audits for people. I had very limited success with that before, but I think I didn't put in enough numbers, and probably my niche was bad too, so I need to pick a better niche. And so anyway, once I work on 3 paid Webflow projects, then I can actually become, I think it's called like a Webflow certified expert or something like that. Because to do that, you have to design 3 Webflow websites that were actually paid projects and are live. And then once you do that, I think you submit that to Webflow. And then if they approve it, then you can become a Webflow expert or Webflow certified, whatever it's called. And so there we go. So then I would be Reloom certified and Webflow certified. Obviously, this whole journey is going to take a while, but it's nice that I feel like I have a pretty concrete path now. Like it took me forever to find this path, and I know that even going on this path, there are going to be times where I want to pivot out of it. And I have to remind myself that I have to stay the course, because out of everything that I've done when it comes to working on UX design and different avenues that I can take, doing Webflow by far has been the most enjoyable for me. So even during those times where I feel like, fuck, like this is painful, like I don't want to continue to do this, I have to know that that is temporary. And that is sort of the trial by fire that I have to do to get to the success that I want with becoming a Webflow freelancer. And so that's my goal. And so I hope like the big take home for this, I kind of alluded to this in the beginning of this video, but if you're sort of in a similar boat to me and you're just not really sure what you should be doing, ask yourself, what do you want to be doing? What do you actually want? What has been the most enjoyable thing that you have done when it comes to the whole UX world? Maybe it's more UX research and you like that. Maybe you do like the idea of working in a startup and sort of having that fast-paced structure of working for a startup company. Or maybe you kind of want to adopt a similar approach to me and you want to really dive headfirst into freelance and just go for it. And whether that's using Framer or Webflow, it doesn't really matter. The main thing is just to ask yourself, what is it that you really want? And then go for that, because it feels a lot more fulfilling to do that than to do something that I felt like I should do. And it's not to say that everything that I do on this journey now is going to be fun and amazing. I know that there's going to be a ton of roadblocks and a ton of times that I'm probably going to want to give up. But I do know that this is now a path that I've chosen out of my own agency and not something that I felt like I had to do because someone else told me to do it. So hopefully this video resonated with you. I'm definitely going to update you on my journey with this whole thing, as I always do, the highs and the lows. And if you did find this video to be helpful, definitely hit the subscribe button. It helps me out more than you know, and just lets me know that these videos are resonating with you. So yeah, that's all I got. Until next time, I will see you in the next video. Take care.